Welcome to the Career Connections podcast, where recruiting leader Stephanie Alston and operations leader Amie Thompson share real-world insights to help you navigate the job market, build confidence, and find the right career fit. Let's get into today's episode.
Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Today, we're going to be talking about LinkedIn, which you have a lot of experience with. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation, just talking about the ins and outs of LinkedIn for job searching. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. The first thing I'd like you to share is just kind of high level how you use LinkedIn on the recruiting side. And what do you kind of see as the state of LinkedIn? It's no longer, some kind of new tool, right? Very established tool. So what do you kind of see as the state of LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah, for sure. First off, thank you so much. I'm so excited about this conversation. I absolutely love LinkedIn. It is my favorite tool. Just a little context about me. I am the CEO of BGG Enterprises, and we specialize in executive search, where we connect job seekers with executive backgrounds to companies who are seeking to hire high-level executives. And so I will say that one of the primary reasons why, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on your question, but I hope I answer it. One of the reasons why I absolutely love LinkedIn as a whole is because it gives you access to everyone from recruiters to hiring managers to CEOs to even entry-level employees, and it allows you to connect with them all in one place in a way that we've never seen before in the labor market, in hopes of hopefully being able to elevate your career to the next level.
Yeah. And so as a recruiter, then your first place that you're going, if you are seeking candidates, is going to be LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because LinkedIn gives me the opportunity to build a pipeline in a way that no other ATS platform does, which is one of the primary reasons why I often tell people that if you are on the hunt for a new job, you have to have a LinkedIn. Now, there are some people who feel as if LinkedIn pulls on their imposter syndrome and they feel like they're not doing enough in their careers when they log onto the platform. But I encourage you to not look at it in that way. See it as your highlight reel. See it as a way for you to finally be able to brag on yourself and your accomplishments, just like your parents would, just like your grandparents would, or
Mhm.
your friends, and just brag on yourself, because that is the one place where bragging on yourself does get you brownie points, especially in the type of labor market that we're in right now.
Yeah. So our audience are people who might be looking for a career change, looking for a new job. What do you think is really the difference between LinkedIn and your resume? We talked in the last episode about resumes. What do you think are the differences between them?
So I think the difference is that LinkedIn have now become a portfolio of sorts, right? So it is very similar to what the information that you would include on your resume, but oftentimes companies are looking to get to know you a little bit more, and LinkedIn gives you that opportunity, right? So not only are you including your experiences, they can also see your recommendations from other employees. Like if you scroll all the way down to your LinkedIn profile, you'll see a section for recommendations. If you find that yours is blank, ask for some recommendations from friends.
Mhm.
But it gives more of a holistic picture of who you are as a candidate. So your job titles previously, recommendations, groups that maybe you're a part of, but then also the level of content that you're also sharing on LinkedIn, right? So if
Mhm.
you're active, that is also something that I'm paying attention to. I'm paying attention to see if you're a thought leader in the area that you are applying for roles for. I am looking to see if you have all the skills that I'm looking for in a candidate. All those things matter to me, and those are not always things that I can see on just, a quick glance of your resume.
Yeah. And I think I have some background in HR and have been, inside of companies hiring. And I think what you said about the activity is really important. I'm not going to necessarily discount somebody if they don't have a lot of activity or they're not posting a lot, but I will notice. And it does make a difference, like you're saying, to get that fuller picture of who the person is. So I think that is a really good distinction. Your resume kind of one page, maybe profile, but your LinkedIn is a much broader profile, not just your experience, but a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about your style. People can take that away from reading your LinkedIn profile and reading your posts and things like that.
Right.
So, how about let's go to people who aren't as active as they want to be on LinkedIn. what's some advice you would say to get them started? So if somebody, maybe they have a profile, but they're not actively posting or engaging, or it's not even updated, what are some of the things you would want them to do to be more attractive to recruiters?
Yeah, so let me first take a step back and let's address properly filling out your LinkedIn profile, right? I think that's important because oftentimes what I'm finding in my search for candidates is that candidates will only list their job titles, but they won't fill out the description of what they actually did at their company, right? Or maybe they won't fill out the company that they did it for. And I
Mm,
don't know why, but I think candidates try to just create a LinkedIn profile just as like a check mark to say that they did it. But
yeah.
no, please pay attention to that because as a recruiter, I have access to a platform within LinkedIn Premium, which is LinkedIn Recruiter, right? And so that recruiter platform allows me to literally go and search for keywords. So let's say, for an example, I am hiring an account manager. What I am doing on the back end is I am then searching for folks who have the title of account manager. I
Mm,
am also then going in and identifying what skills I need that account manager to have. So that might be project management, that might be clear communication, that might be writing, that might be SEO. I'm just naming out different skills, right? I'm typing in those keywords into my LinkedIn recruiter box as a filter, and then I am searching for candidates who have included all of those words. If you have not properly filled out your LinkedIn profile, you will never come up on my radar for
mm,
a candidate I should be considering. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's unfair because I have the experience. If you have the experience, put it on there. I mean, that is number one, whether you have been on LinkedIn for 15 years or you've been on there for 2 months. Make sure you fill out your LinkedIn profile completely because that will be what's really important. In terms of folks who are not active on LinkedIn, you are cutting yourself short again in this labor market, right? There are lots of jobs that are out there that are posted on Indeed, that are posted on LinkedIn, that are posted on Monster, Glassdoor, and the list goes on, right? But at the same time, there are also lots of recruiters who just don't have time to post jobs on all of
mhm,
those platforms and they only rely on LinkedIn. If they are only relying on LinkedIn, that simply means that if you're not out there, you're never going to have a chance to be able to
mhm.
get a job with them because that is the only place that they are looking. And so I know most of us don't want to add another social media platform to our list of things of having to get engaged with online. But just know if you are actively in the market or if you're feeling on edge about your current job, if you're not on LinkedIn, you need to be on there like yesterday.
Yeah. So a couple of things I want to point out. So one, based on what you're saying, is really about being seen and being visible. That's going to help you. And I think sometimes if we're looking for a job, we're thinking about looking for a job, applying for the job, and then that person will go look at our LinkedIn. But from a recruiter's perspective, you are running queries and
Mhm.
searching for people. And again, if your profile isn't optimized, you're not going to show up on those recruiters' radar. So even if you're in a job and you think you're happy in the job in the moment, you never know who might reach out to you because your profile fits what they're looking for. So being visible, being seen is important as a reason to have your profile optimized. The other thing I would say about LinkedIn, it's actually a pretty easy tool to use. Like it gives you, when you're going in, and I was guilty of what you just said, I had all of my jobs listed, but didn't have anything about the company or anything about what I did at those jobs. And so I had to go back and put in keywords that matched the type of role that I am looking for with the work that I've done. But LinkedIn gives you like a skills section, for example, where you could go in and pick out of thousands of skills, and then you can just put that at the bottom of each job. So like there are all of these things that LinkedIn has as features to help make it easier to optimize your profile. So there really is no excuse to not optimize it because you've got the tool there and it's necessary if you want to get found. So I really appreciate those thoughts as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's just the little things that make a big difference, right? That we never really think about. And even to your point, LinkedIn is not a super complicated platform. And folks
Mhm.
often say to me, like, oh, can you help me out with my LinkedIn? Because I see you're always on there. And I'm
Mm.
like, I'm not. It just appears to me because I'm more active than most folks, right?
Yeah,
Remember,
yeah.
Amy, just a funny story. When LinkedIn first started becoming more popular, this was probably, and I know it's been around for much longer than this, but this was around 2000 2013 to 2014, I had this coworker who was obsessed with LinkedIn, and I did not understand why. She was like, "I've gotten all my opportunities from LinkedIn." I'm like, "Really?" And so at the time, I don't know if you remember this, LinkedIn actually had a leaderboard to show who within your organization was the most active on the platform. Her goal was always to be number one, always. And like literally, it became, I'm like, "Well, how are you always number one?" And she was like, "I just go on there and I just engage. I engage." Like every single morning, she's like, "I wake up, I share content, I comment, oh, great, thoughts about this topic, whatever." She did that every single morning, in the morning, in the afternoon, and then at night, at least one time. So she had 3 times within the day that she had touch point. She always remained number one. So much to the point that the CEO of our company asked her to help him optimize his LinkedIn profile. And in that moment, I realized, you know what? She is really on to something. And LinkedIn is truly a platform that rewards you for being active. And it's not active in terms of like, say, an Instagram or a Facebook, and maybe even an X. On those platforms, they encourage you to post a lot, right? There's value in posting. But on LinkedIn, it really is about the engagement. So that might be a like, that might be a repost, that might be, you are posting your own organic activity, that might be commenting on a live, but it does prioritize those candidates. So if you are in the market, try to identify, at least one time throughout the day where you are actively engaging on the platform. Because at the end of the day, the more you engage, the higher your visibility on the
Yeah,
platform it
no,
is.
definitely agreed. And the thing that I like about too, you can get traction on LinkedIn, like you said, you don't have to post a lot. So it's not like some other
Right.
platforms where you're encouraged to actually post, but engaging with other people. And it really, we're all human. And so we're kind of simple in this. You see somebody make a comment, you are going to click on their page. Like if it's an interesting comment, you're going to click on their page. So you just never know who you might run across in someone else's network that you're not directly connected with, that could see you, see your profile, and you could be a fit for an opportunity for a project or a career. So definitely the engagement part is huge. So let's get back to, you optimize the profile. What are some other things, next steps on how to use LinkedIn as a job seeker?
Yeah. Okay. So let me also. I have another story about the
Yeah.
optimizing thing and why it's important, and it's really kind of random. So I guess maybe around 2012, I had, or no, actually it was after my coworker had said that she was obsessed with it. So around 2013, 2014, I I ghost wrote a book with a
Hmm.
celebrity,
I remember this.
and she actually found
Mm,
me on LinkedIn. The only reason why she found me is because she's like, "I don't know why I'm reaching out to you, but I keep seeing your name come up on my
mm,
LinkedIn, and I see you're a ghostwriter. I need a ghostwriter. Would you be willing to do this with me?" And I'm like, "This is random." Sure. And I did it. So again, that is really important. So how you should be using it as a job seeker. Okay. So a couple of things that I think are really important. We've already talked about how to utilize the platform in terms of filling out your
mhm,
profile extensively. Then you want to make sure you're actually adding people to your
mhm,
LinkedIn page. Now, there are some people, Amie and I've had this conversation before, who are more sticklers, who only want to add people that they know. And I think that's great because that does help position you for second and third connections. And that's something you'll better understand once you join the platform. But I also highly suggest that if you're applying for roles at different companies, find a decision maker within that company and add them. Like add them to your network. Pretend as if you've already been hired. Don't be afraid if you don't know them, because the worst that can happen is that they decide not to
mhm.
connect with you back. But that is also important because there are some people who create LinkedIn profiles, they create one, and then that's it. Don't do that. Make sure you're actually intentionally adding folks. Something else, and Amie, I would love to hear your thoughts about this. I actually don't have a public LinkedIn profile. You have to add me in order to see my full profile. And the reason why I've done that is because I want to make sure that if you do want to know more about me, you add me. I see that you add me. And then if there's a connection there where I want to also connect with you as well, then I can send you a message and say, "Hey, looking forward to the connection." There are some people who do believe in having a publicly accessible profile because they then hope that, oh, well, if it's public, then that means that if I apply for a job on Monday and the hiring manager wants to Google me, it'll come up. I think that's great. But again, on the LinkedIn recruiter side, it doesn't matter if your profile is public or private. I can still
Got
see if you have the skill sets through my filters. But I would love to know your thoughts about that. Do you suggest that
Interesting.
folks have a public profile?
Yeah.
I don't
That
think
is
so.
interesting. So I probably would lean towards public, but I
Okay.
think it's the right strategy that you have as to why, because it gives you an opportunity for a little conversation. The way that I would look at it though, and I think people have to just make their own preference, but is I don't want it to be work for people to get to know me, right? And so if someone sees my title or picture or something and they want to know me, I don't want them to have to take extra steps because most likely they might not. So to be able to see the full profile. But I think from a strategic standpoint, like it makes sense in what you're doing because it gives you an opportunity to send them a message and they might be more serious because they have taken the time to, connect with you or make that connection request, but I never thought about it. So it's something really interesting to think about it. And I feel like it goes back to something that you said earlier about being intentional. Looking for a job, finding a job is not like for the faint of heart, right? It is a full-time
Right.
thing. It requires effort. It requires discipline. And so you have to make choices like that. A similar question came up the other day with a group of folks I was talking to about the open to work um, badge, right?
Mm,
And should you put that on or not? And there were mixed reviews. Some people were like, absolutely, let people know. Other people felt like, is that saying a little bit, does it sound too desperate with the little sign there? So it was an interesting sides to it. One solution is that you can have that badge and only show it to recruiters. So it doesn't show up for
right.
everybody, but there is a feature in there where you can only show it to recruiters. But the point being, there's so much functionality and so many features in LinkedIn that you can take advantage of, but you've got to decide what works for you, what's right for you. And then, like you said, be intentional about, don't just kind of be casual about it. If you're really looking for a job, you have to turn this into an initiative or a project and really think about the choices that you're making on LinkedIn.
Right. No, that is so good. And so let's talk about that a little bit. So I think in the marketing world, we would call that A/B testing, right? So you try
Yeah.
different things within your
Yeah.
profile to see what works, what doesn't work, and then you lean more towards
Yep.
what works once you figure that out. So I am with you with the open to work, right? So we are in a very tumultuous market, and so you do see more of those
Yeah.
out there. And if you are afraid to put that, that is also okay. You can hide it for only recruiters to be able to see. And then I would only see that in my LinkedIn recruiter. I also will say on the LinkedIn recruiter, it also gives me an option. Don't quote me on the exact language around it, but it's also potentially looking for
Mhm.
work. So like LinkedIn is able to gather data to see, if you've been applying for jobs and you might be interested in working with my organization. And so those also come up in my filters. So if you have been actively applying, but you don't want to announce it to
Yeah.
the world or even to recruiters, just know you can still come up on my radar. For me, on the LinkedIn recruiter side, I do not discriminate if you don't have open to work on your profile. I'm still going to reach out because you never know if a candidate's looking, if they're interested. 9 times out of 10, what I found is even if a candidate didn't have open to work on their banner, they still respond to my messages and they're like, yeah, I do
Mm.
want to learn more about this position. I am on the hunt, but I didn't know how
Right.
to approach it. That's one thing. Something else I've also seen online, not necessarily saying that you have to do this, but just something I've seen is a lot of people have now started using colorful banners. So instead of open to work being green, maybe their open to work is
Mhm.
pink, maybe it's blue. And so again, it makes you
Yeah.
stand out opposed to everyone else. That's also something I think could be really beneficial for you as well as a job seeker. Is try to figure out how you can
Yeah.
stand out. Something else, and I know we're like laying a lot of information on you, but when you're building out your LinkedIn profile, again, it's figuring out what works and what
Mhm.
doesn't work. So, as I mentioned earlier, for me, I choose to make my profile private. So you have to come. But in me making my profile private, I can choose to disclose what I want you to see when you click on my profile. So maybe you see my current job title, maybe you see my header, maybe you see my last 10 posts, maybe you see my media section. You can also customize it
Mhm.
down to that to see what it is you want to show. Because again, there are some folks who say, okay, I want to balance, right? I don't want you to see that I graduated from college in this year, but I do want you to be able to see this is my work experience. There are options for you to customize what you want private and what you have to do, and what you want to make public. There is a distinguishing factor there. So just know that that's also there on the back end
That's
for
good
you.
to know. Good. Well, let's talk about a few more tips that you would give job seekers to be more visible and help get their LinkedIn profile seen.
Yeah. So another tip is going back. This is like a level of engagement, right? Once you have added someone on LinkedIn who you have perceived as someone that you want to connect with, or maybe even if it's a hiring manager, don't be afraid to send them a message and say, hey, I recently applied for your open role. I would love to connect, if you're open to it. Now, there are some hiring managers who don't like that, so they're not going to respond to you. But again, this is an opportunity for you to put yourself out there a little bit more, because at a minimum, they're going to see your name and remember you. Because at the end of the day, recruiters are going through lots of resumes every single day, and you have to make sure that you are a person who stands out to them. So that's one tip. Another one is, and I touched on it very briefly, is recommendations. So if you have former colleagues that would not mind, send them a recommendation request and say, hey, would you be willing to write 2 or 3 sentences about your experience with me? And if you feel like they're too busy, what I've often done is like, hey, if you're too busy, I can also write it for you and tell you what I wanted to say. Because again, LinkedIn is all about putting your best foot forward, career and business wise, right? And so if you have to kind of guide them on what to say about you, don't be afraid to ask, because at the end of the day, that is really important. Something else that I also want to highlight that I think is really important on LinkedIn is, do not be afraid to shout for the mountaintops about your accolades. If you won an award, share that on LinkedIn. If you've gotten a promotion, share it on LinkedIn. If you've written a new white paper, share it on LinkedIn. If you are part of a new video series, share it. If you have created new artwork, or I don't know, if you worked on an advertising project, there's an area on LinkedIn where you can add projects so people can literally see the work you've done. Don't be afraid, again, to talk about yourself. That is literally, LinkedIn is the only profile that I am not going to judge you for talking about yourself excessively. So don't be afraid to talk about things you have accomplished.
I think that self-promotion is tough. I mean, it's not a
It is.
natural thing for a lot of people. Some people, it's perfectly fine. And so in everything that you're
Yeah.
saying, it's like you have to promote yourself, because people are getting, recruiters and hiring managers bombarded with so many applications for a single job. How do you stand out? And LinkedIn really sounds like the perfect tool to be able to do that. But you've got to take the initiative to say, I'm going to brag about myself a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the things that I've done, the things that I've accomplished. And that's just not natural for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So even just connecting with folks, if you applied for a job and then sending them a connection request, like, it's a simple thing, but it still takes a little bit of guts, because you don't want to turn somebody off or whatever. But like you said, they can ignore it. They can just say no, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But it does take a little bit of extra energy to be like, you're going to have to self-promote, which is not natural.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that's something that I also struggle with, is self-promotion. So even if I'm posting something that like promotes me, generally speaking, I'll post it and I'll log off, because I don't want, and that has always been me, because I don't want to be the person who scroll. Like, some people wait for the comments to come in. I can't. Like, I might not even look at it for a
Yeah.
day or two. That is just me. But even going back, Amie, to like, it takes guts. My mom actually said to me many years ago, she was like, let other people tell you no. And that really has stuck with me, right? So like, the worst you can do is hear no, I don't want to connect with you. And okay, that's
Yep.
fine. It's not the
Yep.
end of the world. Life goes on. Just connect with them. I'll even share this little fun fact with you as well, is that on LinkedIn, there is an opportunity for you to be able to see, and some people hate this and it's hilarious, but you can see who looks at your profile. If you go there, don't just say to myself, oh my God, this person is looking at my profile. If they're not your friends, add them. Like, yes, there will be people who could possibly just be stalking your page because they're nosy, right? That's one thing. And it is what it is. Add them
Yeah.
as well. But for sure, like, if you're able to see on my LinkedIn, and I don't know if it's because I have the premium version or not, but I'm able to see something called interesting viewers. So it'll show me who's viewing my profile, who is interesting, whereas they're a decision maker at an organization, whether they have the ability to connect me to somebody high power. I am able to see that as well. So if you find commonalities in those interesting profile viewers,
Yeah.
add them, have a conversation, because for whatever reason, they're looking at you. So why not go
Yeah.
ahead and make that connection? Who knows? That could be a hiring manager looking to hire you for their next
Yeah.
open role.
No, I think that's a great suggestion. And I have someone in my network who does a lot of LinkedIn consulting. I was just thinking about him last week and I was like, I wonder what he's up to and if he, still at the same company. So I went to his profile just to look. I didn't say anything, but I just went to look. And then he sent me a message. Oh, thanks for checking out my profile. How's it going? You know what I mean? So it is an opportunity. Like if you allow yourself to recognize like the power of LinkedIn, it is an opportunity to start a conversation. So even if you don't want to be the person who says something first, just look at somebody's profile and then they might reach out to you and just say, hey, I saw you checked out my profile. Maybe we should connect. Maybe we should catch up. Like there's opportunity there to really, build your network. And like you said, you never know. Somebody might be hiring, somebody might know somebody who's hiring for exactly what you're looking for and can make that
Right.
connection. So
Oh yeah, and I'm not gonna say it's not scary, because I've had some profile. I'm like, oh, they looked at my profile. I can't reach out to them. But then I'm just like, you know what? There's a reason why they
yeah,
looked at my profile. Let me reach out. Like there was recently a lawmaker who looked at my resume, and I'm like, oh, what have I done for him to be looking at my profile? That's what I'm thinking in my head, right? But then I'm just like, no, this is actually somebody that I need to know, because I do advocate really hard for the labor market. So let me reach out to say, hey,
yeah,
thank you for looking at my profile. I would love to connect. And he did respond
okay,
back to me. He didn't tell me why he was looking at my profile, but again, I mean, that was an opportunity to
yeah,
bridge the gap, because this is somebody that I do feel like I need to be connected to. And instead of being afraid or intimidated by
yeah.
this person, I mean, what can it hurt? You're clearly on their radar, right? So just look at it
Yeah.
that way.
Well, that's good. So let's talk about any other last tips that you would have for folks to really get their profile together and start being active on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, one just came to mind. I probably should have said this first. Add a picture of yourself. That is very important. I was gonna say add a picture, but I think we have to spell it out for people.
Of
A
yourself.
picture of yourself is very important, and it's not important from a vanity standpoint at all. It really is so that I know that you're a
Mm,
real person. If you don't have a profile picture, I'm probably gonna skip past your resume or your profile page, even if it's fully filled out, because I'm then going to wonder if you're real or if you're a
mm.
bot. So just know that that's important. That's valuable in this whole search thing, is make sure that you put a picture of yourself on your profile. Don't overthink it, but put a picture of yourself. There are so many platforms out there. Not saying you have to utilize AI to create a profile picture, but use a headshot if possible.
Yeah.
Do not use a picture of you sitting in your backyard holding up the peace sign. Do not post pictures of you in your car. Those are not really good profile pictures. Like, you do want to be intentional. So even as an example, in the past, something I've done is maybe not in this background, but if I move my plants out the way, and also the picture, it's a blank wall, right? So if I want to use that and take a picture of myself with the headshot, right? I could then use that, and then there's a website called
Mhm.
remove.bg, I want to say. It can remove the background from you, and then it gives you a headshot with a white
Yep.
background. Something as simple as that, but make sure you have a headshot on your profile page, and make sure your picture's professional. Because again, that also matters to the level of people, wanting to take you seriously, no matter
So
what, for
let me
sure.
ask, let's dig into this for just a minute. So I agree with you because I think that if I'm, working in a role where I'm reviewing LinkedIn profiles or I'm like, it's just noticeable, like a noticeable difference if it's just
Right.
because it's also just like this gray box with a little bit. So it's
Correct.
really noticeable. But I would probably assume that people maybe don't want people to know their backgrounds or their ethnicities. And could that, have some kind of bias attached to it? Like I said, I agree with you because when I view it as less personal and don't know if the person is actually real. But I do think that some people probably fear being judged based on their picture. It could be age, right? Instead of just looking at their qualifications, you see that somebody has some gray hair or something, and then you're like, or they're too young. They look really young. So I think that it's an interesting point. And again, it always comes back to people have to make the decision that's best for them. But I do think there's like another perspective to think about of how people think that other people might judge them. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that's so good. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a great question. That's a great question. I would love to hear other people's
Yeah.
thoughts about this too, because to your point, I encourage people not to put their pictures on their resumes because that was the thing at one point where
Yeah.
folks would, they want to they want to include their picture, and so I'm just like, yeah, no, but then that opens up bias. But then now with LinkedIn, it now makes bias easier because your picture
Yeah.
is out there. But on the flip side, not having a picture just creates a new
Yeah.
bias, as in, like, well, you don't have a picture, so like, I don't know if you're real or not. And that is a real thing, Amy. We live in this world of AI, right? Where unfortunately fake people can apply for jobs that don't
Yep.
exist. And I have to know if you're real. And obviously I'll know if you're real if I give you the interview, right? But I think this is an area that we're going to have to continue to talk about and explore as the evolution of AI continues to come
Mhm.
about because, and this can go into a whole nother conversation, but I actually had a colleague recently tell me that she's seen an uptick in people not showing up for interviews, but their AI twin showing up for
What?
interviews. Yeah. 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 And I was and I actually thought it was a joke. And she was like, no. And she gave me there's actually a platform that a platform that people can use where they don't have to show up to the interview, but it's your likeness and your image. And they're actually calling this ghost candidates. So like how they have like ghost jobs, like ghost candidates or candidates who don't exist in
Mhm.
real life, but they're able to come up for job interviews. Um, so, Twilight Zone. But nonetheless, yeah, I think that you have to find out
Yeah,
what works best for you in the case of posting a picture. But just know that bias can
that's
lay on
right.
either side of this
Yeah.
argument.
And I think one other thing before we wrap up is just back to kind of the functionality of LinkedIn. So I don't know if this is a premium feature or not, but I have noticed in looking at jobs, it will give you kind of a summary of your fit for the job and then give you some options to update your profile or your resume using AI. And so LinkedIn is constantly evolving, just like all of their platforms and adding things. And you should definitely try those out and see like what works for you and if it's helpful for you. But the reality is it's hard to find a job. It's a grind to find a job. So any tools that you can use to help sharpen your profile, sharpen your resume, you can, definitely take advantage of it. And LinkedIn is a free tool for the most part. You can upgrade to other things, but like take advantage of all of the features that it has for you to try to lessen the workload of finding a job.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that would have to be my final words that I want to leave with everyone too is that LinkedIn is free. Use it to your
Absolutely.
advantage.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the conversation. This was great. Hopefully, you all have gotten some good input and advice, things to think about. But LinkedIn is here to stay. It's absolutely not optional. If you are looking for a job, you should be on LinkedIn. Try to be as active as you can and make sure that you are creating a really good representation of yourself and that you're staying visible. And we appreciate everybody for joining, and we will see you on our next episode. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Career Connections podcast with Stephanie and Amie. Connect with us on LinkedIn for more career tips, resources, and conversations that help you grow with confidence.